Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have John Pomeroy. He's the CEO and co-founder at Playin. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. It's also nice to talk to a fellow Canadian about kind of the startup space and kind of what they're doing. But maybe before we kind of get into Playin, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with kind of where you grew up.
Sure. I grew up in Ottawa, actually,
Okay.
the nation's capital.
Yeah. Okay, and then walk me through kind of your career a little bit. You've kind of had a bit of an interesting kind of career leading up to founding a company. So do you kind of want to walk me and the listener through your kind of career up until Playin?
Yeah, sure. I think at this level, everybody's got a pretty interesting career. So mine definitely took a circuitous route, a little bit unusual. I started out really coming out of high school and into college in the arts, liberal arts. I studied photography and actually went into the photography business, began doing photography for a few years.
Okay.
Along the way, I always sort of had an interest, a desire, an affinity, whatever you want to call it, towards technology and electronics and all of that. I found it quite fascinating. So when, in the photography business, when digital imaging began to emerge, I, sort of took a turn towards that and started, pursuing that avenue a little bit. I don't know how much detail we want to get into, but through a chain of events, I found myself, in business doing integration of these digital cameras at very high-end, solutions for, catalog studios and things, which strangely led to being in the video semiconductor business.
Okay. Interesting.
In a company called Genesis Microchip, also based here in Toronto, in Canada. The Genesis solution, when I joined them, it was it was the emergence of flat panel monitors. So
Sure,
some people may remember
days.
the original. Yeah, I don't know if you remember the original Apple Studio
Yep,
monitor. It was
totally.
on like a little telescoping pedestal.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
the VIX's, or the Genesis chips were the chip in that Apple Studio display.
Oh, interesting.
So, and then the flat panel monitor business just blew up, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so in pretty short order, Genesis had 85% of the market share worldwide, which at the time was still a relatively small market, but substantial nonetheless. And of course, as it grew, competitors came and the business, morphed and changed and so forth. But that was really the Genesis story. We went public. We blew the company up. We grew our earnings tremendously. We merged with a few others along the way, and took on not just the flat panel monitors, but the emergence of flat panel televisions, the early plasma TVs, and all these sorts of things. So lots of sort of emergence of that type of digital technology right through the whole, 99, 2000, 2001, tech bubble, if you will.
Sure.
And then eventually Genesis was acquired by another ST Micro, another semiconductor company. And I left there to go and join another startup that was emerging also here in Toronto, called VIX's Systems.
Okay. No, that's really cool. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So VIX's was also in the video chip business when I joined them back in 2005. They were doing wireless video distribution, and today, many of us have set-top boxes in our house that are connected wirelessly to another set-top box in the house. But
Sure.
Back in 2005, that was, it was smoke and mirrors. People didn't believe it could happen. And so we were, pioneering this stuff. Unfortunately, we were about 10 years too early.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah, I remember that space. Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so we pivoted the company a couple of times, and ended up doing some transcoding things. We were quite successful in the Japanese market, so we have a lot of big Japanese customers, Sharp,
Interesting.
Toshiba, Sony, these guys. And in North America and Europe, we got into the set-top box business, making set-top boxes that you would find in your living room for coming from Comcast or DirecTV or one of these operators.
Sure.
And so forth. And obviously today we see that there's a big, cord cutter community, right? People who are tired of paying whatever they perceive as big fees to the service operators and want to operate on a lower cost model. And as I was leaving Vixis, we initiated a project to create a solution for over-the-air video and how to manage that in your home and do a better job of it, so that we could deliver what came in from, in Toronto, the CN Tower, right? The big antenna in town.
Yeah.
And put up a little antenna on your roof or whatever and bring in all the local channels and then put it into a box that would Wi-Fi distribute it around the house, so you could use your tablet and your computer and your phone as your viewing device. And really that's the beginnings of what we probably are going to be continuing to see, right?
Yep.
The tablet probably becomes one of the primary viewing devices in most homes.
I 100% agree. The interesting thing, just kind of a side note of that, have you heard of YouTube TV, where Google's live streaming TV service that launched in a bunch of cities across the States? This happened in kind of the springtime. I think it was March of 2017.
I think I heard of it. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it, or we're spending a lot of time investigating it.
Sure, because it's basically you can run live TV either in the browser, on your tablet, your phone. Obviously it works on a Chromecast, that kind of stuff. So Google's doing it as kind of as well now too, right? So I think it's pretty cool to start to see that stuff, right? And I know all the other vendors are doing it, but I think the YouTube kind of Google experience is actually pretty slick.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with that is, we live in a pretty privileged environment here in North America and Western Europe, where the internet is prolific and it's accessible and it's inexpensive, relatively speaking. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so that works great if you are internet connected. But when you become more rural, or when you get into rural Mexico or South America or other emerging countries, they don't have that kind of coverage, but they do have big old antennas broadcasting video.
Sure.
The trouble is that the big old antenna that broadcasts video doesn't broadcast it in a format that these portable mobile devices and things like.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
How do you receive it and put it on that device? And that's what this whole OTA transcoding, transmogrifying thing was about taking those broadcast terrestrial signals and putting them in a format as they arrive at the house. It can then be used for Wi-Fi distribution within the house and put it on all those portable devices that like a very specific kind of video. Yeah.
Oh, cool. No, that's very cool.
So that's kind of not a bad segue to where I am now at Play-In.
Okay.
And the segue is that we are today becoming more and more and more a mobile-first society.
Very much
right?
so. Yep.
We see that, Facebook has made the transition to being a mobile-first platform by and large.
Yep.
And so, Play-In, when we think about our organization, that's where it comes from. It's mobile-first.
Sure.
So if I'm a mobile user, how do I do X, right?
Sure.
Or if I'm going to do X, what role does my mobile device have to play in that?
Of course,
right?
Yeah, sure.
And it seems obvious, right? I mean, of course, everybody has a mobile device, and in North America, and I'm not including Mexico, but in Canada and the U.S., there are some 86 million people that have a smartphone.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
It qualifies as a smartphone. So it's an iPhone or an Android phone of some modern ilk, right?
Sure.
So that's a lot of people.
Yep.
And, for Play-In, of those people, in fact, the number's kind of skewed, but if we take a demographic, we say 17 to 35-year-olds. Let's pick on the Gen X, if you will, right?
Sure.
Or the millennials. Let's pick on the millennials, 17 to 35. So, if we take those people and we say, okay, well, play-ins in the entertainment business were interested in live events, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those ought to be people who are interested in live events, because
Sure.
that's sort of a demographic that usually is, right?
Yep.
And so, okay, so how many people are in that age group who have a smartphone, who have gone to a live event in the last year?
Probably
Right?
what, most of them, if not all of them. Like, it's hard not to.
Turns
right?
out that it's somewhere around 55 or 56 million people.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Okay, so when we think about playing, we think, well, heck, that's a lot of users
Sure.
that we can have
Just
at our
in one
disposal,
continent,
right?
or most of a continent, I guess, because like Mexico, you said not including Mexico.
Not including Mexico,
So
yeah.
Okay.
Because the stats on Mexico are more obscure. It's a little harder to figure out.
Sure.
But, yeah, exactly. Just in that little piece of the marketplace, right? So now, obviously, it's, Western economy. It's the first world economy. So we have more smartphone users per capita, and people have entertainment as a higher profile piece of their discretionary spending and so forth, right?
Sure.
But when we, at the same time, we look at those 55 million people and we say, well, how much did they spend to go to a live event?
Sure.
Well, the average ticket for a music event in North America is $80.
Sure. And I think sometimes that's even on the low end, right? Like I get that's an average, but depending, yeah.
That's an average, and that
Sure.
includes, the singer-songwriter down at the pub at the end of the street where there's a $5 cover charge, right?
Sure. Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
Right. But $80,
Yep.
right? So 55 million people times $80, and that's if they only went once.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it starts to be a huge piece of the economy.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough. So that's where sort of the play-in focus is, right? When we think about our business, we think about where does our business come from, where can our business come from? Well, it's that piece of the marketplace. It's that group of users. It's the mobile-first user who wants to go to events, who's between the ages of 17 and 35.
Sure. No, I think that's great.
So we wandered off track a little bit on that one.
No, I think it's good.
With my history, we got right into that.
No, I think it's good, but I do kind of want to back up a little bit in the sense that what made you decide to, kind of do play-in as a startup and basically kind of dive into the space when, yes, you've been in startups, but now you're kind of at the helm and doing this thing. So what was kind of the moment or the deciding factor that made you decide to do this thing?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, when I look back, particularly my time in the last, since 2005 with Vixis Systems, if I were to describe Vixis over that time, it was 4 different startups.
Okay.
Right. When I joined, it was a startup that was doing wireless video. And 2 years later, it was a startup that was doing transcoding for Blu-ray applications in Japan. And 2 years later, it was a startup that was doing set-top boxes for cable operators and satellite operators in North America and Europe. And 2 years after that, it was a startup that was doing an OTA solution, for an emerging marketplace. So, I mean, it really was, over the years, that many different companies. And my role in the company for the duration, and even in Genesis before that, really was I was the greenfield guy. I would, somebody would say, we think this might be a good idea. John, go figure it out.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
And so I'd get on an airplane, and I can remember quite succinctly. I landed in Izmir, Turkey, back in 2002, I think it was.
Okay.
Shortly after the earthquake, so not even before that. And I got off this plane, and I was working for Genesis, and I got off this plane. I was going to see this company called Vestel, big company in Turkey. I'd never been to Turkey before, right? I got off this plane, and I got in this taxi, and I didn't speak Turkish. I had no idea. I just had an address. Right? I handed this guy this thing with the address, and he couldn't read English, so he shows it around to the other taxi drivers, and off we go, right?
Sure.
And I'm in this taxi, and we go wandering off down this highway, and the highway turns into a dirt road, and we go up through this mountain range on a dirt road in this crazy old car. And I'm thinking, what have I got myself into?
Sure.
And we come down the other side of the mountain, and all of a sudden the road's paved again, and there's this whole city over there. And there's this massive factory, right? Okay. So, I mean, it's just, that's the greenfield thing, right? You're the first guy in, you're starting from scratch, you don't know anything, and you've got to try and build a business out of it. And we ended up doing quite a lot of business with Vestel and another Turkish company, Beko, over the years. And so for me, I've always been sort of doing startups. The difference is didn't have to foot the bill, right? I didn't have to come up with the funding. I always had somebody standing behind me or a bigger organization wrapped around me to give me the financial support that I needed in order to get the job done.
Sure.
So with Vixis, I left Vixis a little over a year ago, and part of it was just, I'd been there 11 years. We'd done these 4 different startups, and life moves on, right?
Yep.
And I decided I needed to do something different. And as I started to look around at other companies, I thought, this can't be that hard. I've done this,
sure.
right? I haven't gone out and found the funding and so forth, but I certainly understand and recognize and have been a part of all the things that it takes to make a company work, to make it successful, to understand what delivering something, a finished product to a customer that they can use means, right?
Sure.
And I look at a lot of the startups that are out there, and they're rife with very young people, and as it should be, right? Mm-hmm. They're energetic, they've got great ideas, they're committed, they don't have a lot of their own personal overhead, so they can be in that kind of environment. But a lot of them, and not their fault, a lot of them just lack experience. So they make a lot of what are, to many people, fairly obvious mistakes. And there's a lot of great mentoring and coaching and things out there that helps people through that, right?
Sure.
So I'm a little older, but at the same time, I've been through a lot of those things. I can see a lot of those things coming. I can see the roadblocks coming down the road, and I have a plan. So when I left Vixis, it's like, okay, what do I really want to do next? Well, I don't really want to be in the chip business anymore.
Okay, sure.
But technology obviously is my thing. And so, and I'm feeling like I kind of want to be in charge of my own destiny.
Sure.
So I went looking around for startup ideas.
Okay.
Right. Looked at what some people were working on, looked at, different technologies. I'm quite taken with, all the quantum computing activity that's ongoing. But when I think about quantum computing and the amount of time that it's going to take to bring that to fruition and make it a viable commercial solution that the masses can touch, it's beyond my time horizon, right? I'm looking for something that's a little earlier than that. So going through this process, and I met, my co-founder now, Jeremy.
Okay.
Jeremy comes from the events organizing business.
Sure. How did you meet him? I've always loved those stories.
We actually met on AngelList.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, we found each other on AngelList, and we just struck up a conversation, and we started chatting. At the time, I was actually having a very similar conversation with another founder at another company, and the two were sort of polar opposites. The other company was, very well planned, very detailed, had written all the letters of their business plan and had all their I's dotted and their T's crossed, but they couldn't get the app out the door. They couldn't get the platform built. They couldn't close on the decision making that said, this is what our MVP is going to look like, and we're going to push it out the door and make it happen.
Sure.
And just, for the record, they still haven't.
Interesting.
So I was having that conversation with them, and then I was having this conversation with Jeremy, and Jeremy said, we just launched our MVP. I said, well, what does it do? He said, well, not very much.
Which is the perfect MVP, right? So
yeah, exactly. So I thought, okay, well, that's bold, right? I like this.
Sure.
And we started talking, and it became apparent that he's a man of action. He's an action bias, which is great. He has good ideas. He definitely saw an opportunity in the events business and in the entertainment business that wasn't being met.
Sure.
But he needed more structure. We needed more structure. So I said, well, look, we can do this. Sure. And so this, the star is born, if you will. And so we've been working on it since then. So our MVP is out there. We got up, a few hundred users on it, let them all go away and use it for a while and listen to everything they told us that was terrible about what we'd done. And of course, told us some good things about what we'd done as well.
Sure.
And so we were encouraged by all of that. And we made a hard decision in June to sort of stop everything on the existing platform and redesign from the ground up to make the changes that we needed to make in the foundation to support what the users were asking for. Meanwhile, our back end and our website were still running.
Gotcha.
Right now, I mentioned that we are mobile first. Mm-hmm. We do have a website. It doesn't have a lot of our focus because we really are mobile first.
Sure.
But the website was running, and the existing app, such as it was, we continued to run. And on August 8th, we relaunched a new application, a new platform. And in the process, we went to a hybrid app platform. So we're launched both on iOS and on Android. And they're, by and large, pretty much in lockstep in terms of feature availability.
Sure. What cross-platform software did you use, just out of curiosity?
It's React Native.
Yeah, okay. I kind of assumed, but I was curious. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And React's getting a lot of popularity because of, obviously it's backed by Facebook, and it's pretty hard to argue with their success on mobile, right? They're probably one of, if not the best. So no, I think that's great. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
There are some others. I mean, Google has their own platform, right?
Yeah.
Flutter, I think it's called. And there's lots of excellent choices. And,
sure.
Obviously every business has to make their own decisions for their own reasons. And for us, one of them is, we're not, yes, we're a technology company. Yes, we're a software as a service, but we're not, from our perspective, it's not really important for us to be at the bleeding edge of the technology.
Sure.
And in fact, from a resourcing perspective, it's better if we're not.
Sure.
Right? If we're just a little bit behind that bleeding edge, and when the libraries start to mature a little bit and the APIs are more stable and things like that, then it's easier for us to manage. And our real job here is to deliver a user experience that satisfies the niche that we're trying to address, right?
Sure.
And so, I'm not really interested in technology just for the purposes of technologies. Developer guys love to always be on the very, very, very latest thing.
Sure.
As long as they're allowed to play with it and they don't actually have to develop and deliver anything, right?
Sure. No, totally. Yeah. Fair. That's interesting. Yeah.
So that's why we chose React, is we felt like it was mature enough, it's still modern, new enough that it's got all the modern things in it that we need.
Yeah.
You're right, it's tied to Facebook, which is a great platform, and we're members of the Facebook Start program, and we do rely very heavily on a lot of Facebook's public APIs and things to make our whole platform work.
Nice.
So, it made a lot of sense for us.
No, that's great. So how did you guys kind of fund the company? Did you raise some money? You put some money in yourselves? Walk me through kind of the funding process.
Yeah, today we're bootstrapped.
Okay.
And we've received a very small amount of funding in the form of a grant from the Alberta government in Canada.
Nice.
And that funding it's not really money that goes into the company, it's funding that gets paid to a subcontractor. So
gotcha.
We subcontract the software development, and they write an invoice to us, which we hand to the government, and they write a check to them. It's a triangle.
No, that's cool. No, whatever. That's great, man. I think that's great. So we've kind of skirted around the platform, and I think people can kind of figure out kind of what you guys are doing. But do you maybe want to kind of give a better overview of exactly what Play-In does and kind of your focus?
Sure. So, I mentioned, I think, that it's a software as a service.
Yeah.
We really have two cohorts, right? We have people who organize events, and by events, I mean, live music, festivals, comedy, the singer-songwriter in a bar down the street, right on up to, Coachella, right?
Sure.
That's really what we're talking about. But it goes further than that. It includes things like amateur sports, people doing sporting events, anything that you want to bring a group of people together for a reason, right?
Sure.
And have a drive behind it. So it's really a platform to serve those people and give them a way that they can better reach their audience, and in particular, the mobile-first audience.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
So that's one cohort are the events organizers, and we call them clients,
Okay.
just because we have to have a separation between who's who, right? So we have clients and we have members. Members are, the people who hold the mobile device in their hand and use the platform.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So clients choose the platform because it gives them the ability to help people discover their event. So we have a sponsorship program, an advertising program sort of built in, and obviously event discovery is important. And then the next thing is we want to entice people to come to the event, and when they do, they should have a different and better time at the event than they would if they didn't have the platform.
Right.
Right. So that gets us sort of into the second cohort, which is the user. And then the organizer likes to have some other things. They like to have an opportunity to be able to speak to their audience. We don't live in a world today where an event really is a guy standing at the front of the room and a box with a bunch of people in it. It just doesn't work that way anymore, right? As soon as you put a mobile device in someone's hand, even if that's the environment you're in, half the people in the room are browsing sub-content.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Or whatever that's related to the event, or chatting with each other, or whatever the case may be. So what we want to do is we want to encourage that, right? Let's make that be part of the event, but let's make it be part of the event in a managed and curated way that the organizer can benefit from, instead of them being cut out of the picture, right?
Sure.
So we provide the organizer a way that they can communicate with their audience as a group while they're there. They can, ping them with, hey, there's an upcoming blah, blah, blah. So I'll give you an example. We did an event in Long Beach back in August called Wonder Woman Tech. Okay. Sort of a business conference style event.
Yeah.
And they had 150 different speakers speaking at the event.
Oh, wow.
And so they offered up the platform. They said, hey, everybody get this app.
Yeah.
And when you have it and come to the event, you'll get notifications. And they sent notifications out to everybody saying, hey, don't forget, so-and-so is starting to speak over here.
Sure.
If you want to know where so-and-so is, they're speaking over here. Here's a recap of our keynote if you missed it. Or, hey, we had a change. Somebody couldn't make it, so this speaker is now speaking over here at this time instead of this. So they're able to reach out to their audience, and rather than having to, send out emails and hope that somebody found them, they had a way where they could, with a single interface, just plug in a message, hit go, and it hit everybody at the platform all at once, right?
Yeah. No.
Meanwhile,
totally.
Yeah. Because it's a business event, these people want to interact, they want to communicate, they want to connect, they want to network.
Sure.
And so the app has a conversations feature in it, where within the venue and within the context of the event, they can meet each other with a set of filters that says, I want to meet people that are like this, right,
Sure.
or like that. And they can meet each other, and if they both agree, then they can start a conversation. The nice thing is that when they leave the event, that conversation continues. The conversation doesn't get left behind with the event. And the beauty of it is that the platform, the app that they now have, doesn't get left behind at the event. I don't know if you've ever been to an event, you go there and they have a great app, and you download the app and you do the event. And at the end of the event, what do?
Yeah, the app's over, right? And even if there's like a chat functionality, it totally makes sense. I totally get the platform. Like I know the need that you guys are kind of filling. So I think it's interesting. But keep going. I think it's good.
From a business perspective, if I'm the organizer, if everybody walks out the door and deletes the app, I have to go and reacquire them as a customer, as an app user, as an event attendee the next time I want them to come.
Yep.
And I don't have a way to do that because they've already deleted my app.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So if I give them a pervasive app, a generic app that can reside on my phone, and I as a user like to have it on my phone because when I go home, it geolocates me and it says, oh, geez, John, you're home now. Hey, here's all the events that are happening around you today. Here's what's coming up this weekend in your neighborhood.
Yep.
Right? Now I've got an app on my phone that's kind of useful to me.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And so, when I want to go back to that event, when I walk into the next event, it says, hey, John, you've just arrived at blah, blah, blah. Do you want to join this event? You say, yeah, I sure do. And all of a sudden, all those event-specific features are available to you again, and the organizer can communicate to you as a member of the audience.
Sure. Well, and the other thing, too, is eventually you could start recommending things based on past events I've attended. You could start recommending people that you were chatting with at an event that you've both been to, in the past. There's a handful of things that you guys can do based on kind of known location and known interactions with other people, right? Because it's pretty cool when you go to a city that you haven't seen somebody in a while. or you met them at a conference, and then the next year at that same conference you just reconnect. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, and in fact, for every event there's a pre-event. So if you say, hey, I'm thinking about going to this event, you click on I'm interested, and it'll say, do you want to join the pre-event? And you say yes, and then as other people join, you can meet them.
Sure.
Right. And so if you've met them before, when they join, it's going to tell you, you're going to get a notification saying, hey, your friend so-and-so is also interested in this event. So you can say, hey, Fred, I didn't know you were planning to go to this event. I was thinking about it too. If you're in, I'm in. Let's, get an Uber together. Right.
Right. Sure.
And so now you're going to share rides, or you can arrange to meet somebody. You can have the conversation beforehand. You can plan to meet at a bar, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
Go and, if you're going out to a nightclub, you can go and meet somewhere else and have dinner and drinks before you go to the nightclub, whatever the case may be. So, yes, you're absolutely right. There's once you've connected once, we know you've connected. Maybe you get off. I fly around a lot, right? I've got, millions and millions of miles under my belt. Maybe I get off a plane, and this has happened, by the way, but if I get off a plane in Singapore, my app says, hey, John, you're in Singapore. Did you know that George is also in Singapore? It's like, I didn't know George was going to be here. Hey, George.
Sure.
Because you're just going to sit around in a hotel and do nothing anyway, right? So.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Like, I know some people think that, like, location tracking and stuff is kind of creepy, but, like, I think those people will eventually kind of get over it because it's already happening. And I think majority of the people, especially kind of the millennials and kind of younger than that, don't even think about it. Like it's almost like it's expected, right? And so maybe the older generation, at least some of them, maybe think it's creepy. I think like a lot more people are starting to actually want that. And to be honest, like part of the reason that I prefer kind of an Android phone over the iPhone is because of some of that. Like I try to use as many Google services as possible because I want it to start recommending stuff to me, or apps kind of like Google that recommends stuff to me based on location. Because to your point a second ago, it's like, oh, I haven't seen this person in a while. I didn't even know we're both in the same city. We should like message each other to meet up, right? And I think that's really cool.
Well, sure. I mean, there are all kinds of ethical questions that come up along the way, right? And it's a complicated path because you nailed it. There are people who sit on the I'm not sharing anything with you fence, and there's people that sit on the I don't care, just whatever. You're going to figure it out anyway, even if I don't tell you, right?
Sure.
So, and interestingly enough, watching people we have a way where when you're using the platform, you can share the app with somebody. So you're standing next to them, and they're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and you just go, "Well, here, boom," and you share it with them.
Right.
And it's interesting to watch them on board. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I've watched people from 15 years old on up to 70 years old on board. And it's very interesting to watch the differences in behavior of the different age groups.
Sure, I can imagine.
Sometimes it's surprising, So I mean, that in itself is it's kind of an exciting part of the business is to watch the human interaction.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's an important part of what we do when we think about designing a feature for the app, right? If we do it this way, how are people going to feel about that? How is the younger set going to feel about that? How is the older set going to feel about that? How are the women going to feel about that?
Sure.
How is this going to feel to somebody who is gender not specific,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot, as soon as you get into the social side, right, there's a lot of things you've got to think about, even simple stuff. Our developers couldn't understand why we really didn't want them to show anybody's last name on
sure.
the surface of the app.
Yeah, I get
like
that.
What we have it. It's like, yeah, but we don't want everybody else to know everybody else's last name, right?
Sure.
Unless somebody really specifically wants to share their last name, let's not make it happen that way, right?
No, I 100% agree. Yeah.
So, yeah, and there's an age filter in there. Lots of people don't want to share their age, or they put a fake age in, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So there's certainly lots of things that come up in terms of ethics, in terms of how you want to run your business there. But you're right, Kevin, that when we step back and we look at it, in essence, really we're creating a very, very large data scoop. And with that data scoop, and we add some AI technology behind it, we'll have the ability to be probably very accurate about making recommendations for the types of things that might be interesting to you, even if you didn't know they were interesting to you.
Sure.
And for introducing you to like-minded individuals, wherever it might be that you happen to be. Many of those features, those are longer-term features, right? Longer horizon. They get kind of complicated. And we need, the more data we have, the better at it we will be. We do have a suggested feature already.
Yeah.
It's based on your likes on Facebook, but it's also based on you putting in some filters and things and saying, these are the sorts of things I'm interested in seeing. And it will recommend things for you. It is geolocating, but it doesn't follow you around. You have to actually open the app.
Gotcha.
And it will check your location when you open the app.
No, I think that's great. Keep going, sorry.
There's a long-running debate about whether we should check your location in the background or not. And we may do it at some point, but right now it's not a high priority.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And I think the other thing too, and I'm curious to know if you're doing it already or if you're going to do it, is like if I'm at a concert or something with friends and obviously, everybody else that's there, and I take photos or video, like if the app kind of will curate that or let me share, my video, because the what I saw recently is obviously everybody knows kind of like who Guns N' Roses are, and they've been kind of on a huge world tour. And what I found, I just kind of stumbled into on YouTube the other day because they came through my city not too long ago. I didn't go, but a couple of guys at work went, and I knew a few other people that went. But somebody, it had to be on the crew of like, I think like one of their sound guys or whatever. He basically took all the footage that, they either shot as the band or all like just clearly people shot of the show, and he pieced together the whole set list. So like you could see some are shot from total different angles, some are better quality or not, and then he pieced together the whole show. And I thought that was kind of cool, right? Where you could just take a bunch of publicly available content that clearly people posted to YouTube, and then somebody compiled the whole show, so you could basically watch the show you were at or an event you were at, or see photos from other people's kind of viewpoints of something. That was kind of a cool thing. So have you thought about kind of doing stuff like that, or are you guys already doing that?
Yeah, Kevin, I should make you an advocate for the company and just make it public. The reality is yes. So
sure.
Because we've added in, as I mentioned, the social feature, right, the ability to meet and match with people and so forth, and the live, what we call the Play Live Events room. Right?
Okay.
So the Play Live Events room is a room, so to speak, a virtual room that takes place when you're in an event. So it doesn't get created until there's at least 10 people using the platform at an event.
Gotcha,
right? So
sure.
You don't get in there and it's like just you by yourself. Well, this is really lame, right? We want to make sure that you have a good experience when you get there. But as soon as there's 10 people using the platform, it creates this live event room, and you have the ability to create stories, kind of like what Snapchat does,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
You're able to create stories at the event. And so when you're at the event, even in real time, you'll be able to see, hey, here's my buddy who's standing over there on the other side of the stage, and here's what he's seeing right now, right?
Yep.
So you can look around and see what other people are experiencing and so forth. At the moment, our plan is that those stories will terminate when the event terminates.
Okay.
And the reason is that some of us have different sets of responsibilities when we're not at an event. And it may be that we don't want that stuff living permanently in infamy.
Sure.
Things may get seen or shown or even associated with us because we took a picture of the guy standing next to us smoking something they shouldn't have been smoking or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
That, fair. We don't necessarily want to expose, right?
Yeah.
So we'll probably terminate those things. That said, there's some discussion, and it's not a decision yet, but some discussion about giving you the option where you, as a user during the show, can just say yes and make it permanent.
Okay.
So afterwards, there's basically a whole show storyboard where all the people that said, yes, this one can stay, this one can stay, this one can stay, they can be available to be viewed. The question then becomes who owns that content, or who can monetize that content, or does it get monetized? And is it the organizer that has the rights to monetize it, or is it, is it nobody should be able to monetize,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no,
then we get into
totally.
a business discussion.
And actually I think that's kind of like, that's super fascinating to me, because that's such a gray area, right? Like everybody has an opinion, and it's probably related to kind of what you touched on a second ago with kind of if somebody's doing something that illegal or maybe that they shouldn't be doing, that if that could affect them post event. I
Yeah.
think the other thing too is probably even age of certain people at certain events, right?
Yes.
Because
Well,
so
there's no question that we will have an 18, like an age barrier at the age of 18. We were discussing this yesterday.
okay,
That people under 18 and people over 18, we definitely are going to draw a line somewhere in there. We're not quite sure how we're going to do it or what flavor it's going to take, but we do want to try and protect the under 18 crowd, and they don't necessarily like being protected, so it has to be done in a way that's attractive to them and appealing to them and not restrictive to them, but by the same token gives them some sort of protection. It's very difficult to do because, as I said, people put in fake ages and things,
exactly.
so, and it's hard to validate that, right?
Sure.
But at a certain point, is that really, you put a disclaimer in there, and is that our responsibility at that point? I mean, how far does it go? And certainly that's a conversation we have with lawyers and things.
Sure.
And they all have different opinions, as you said.
Oh yes.
So, these are definitely some things that we face as we roll out these individual features. And there's no question that early on, as we are now, right, we're able to deploy fairly substantial feature sets before we start bumping into some of these boundaries, right? And so the sort of the velocity of deployment is definitely going to decrease, because we have to take more considered action as we get into some of these more complicated issues, for sure.
Yeah, no, but I also think you need to push kind of technology and society forward, right? Like more and more people are expecting a more intimate experience and an interaction with kind of other people that enjoy obviously the same kind of things. And a lot of people, I think, go to at least certain types of events to meet other people, whether it's just for, kind of networking or friendship or dating or other, it doesn't really matter. But I think, so I think people are kind of expecting what you guys are doing and kind of figuring out the space related to kind of all the privacy and, non-privacy stuff. It can get tricky, but I think it's great that you guys are exploring that and kind of pushing things forward with that.
Well, and we've not really talked about what is probably the most compelling feature of the platform, which is ultimately, as the marketplace grows, because it really is a marketplace, right? We've got the organizers who want people to come to their events, and we've got people who want to go to events. And many of them probably don't want to spend $80 a ticket to do it, right? And many of these organizers will have a venue that maybe the venue seats 1,000 people, right? And they've sold tickets and so forth, and they held back some for friends and family and blah, blah, blah. And maybe they've got 100 tickets left, and it's 2 days before the event. Right? Now, in the traditional marketplace, what would they do? Well, one, they try and sell them at the door.
Yep.
But you got to hope there's walk-ups, and it's very unpredictable. You just don't know if they're going to sell, right?
Yep.
Two, you remarket them. You put them back out there, and you run a little campaign around it to try and get that last little push of people to sign up and come, right? But that's quite expensive because it's A, you got to do it urgently. B, you want to hit people over the head with it, And so those last few tickets can be quite expensive to market, and maybe it's not worth it. But the underlying thing is that's where all the margin for the operator is, or the organizer is, right?
Yep.
Because they've paid for the venue, they know that their cutoff to pay for the venue is whatever it is, 650 people. We'll pick a number, right?
Sure.
And so every seat they sell after that, or every person, every warm fleshy body they put in that venue beyond that, that's where the margin's at. They get better secondary sales. They get more energy in the event. They sold that ticket, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Expand their audience. So for us, that's, again, another opportunity. And so we provide those events organizers with a way to provide tickets to users, specifically the excess inventory tickets or extra value tickets.
Right.
Buy a regular price ticket, claim this VIP upgrade off of the plan platform, and you'll get front of the line access, so you don't have to wait in line. Or get this VIP upgrade and get seats at the front. Yep. Or get this, VIP upgrade and, the first 2 drinks you buy come with an order of fries, or, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
And so the beauty of those upgrades is they don't actually cost the organizer as much, right, as the face value, or maybe nothing to give you front of the line access, right?
Sure.
It makes you feel special as a user, and it gives you an extra incentive to go to that event. So that's really, and of course, we will move towards selling tickets. But right now, our focus is excess inventory and upgrade sales or upgrade deliveries. Okay. So that's great. They're on there. What do I do as a user? Well, as a member, you can claim things that the organizer says you'll be able to claim this for free. If the organizer says, well, I don't want to make this free, I'd be willing to take less than face value. I don't want to StubHub it or whatever the case may be, right? Secondary market thing.
Yeah.
So they put it on Play-In, and people who are subscribers to Play-In pay a monthly fee to subscribe. They will be able to access those. And then we pay a royalty out of the monthly program to the events organizer. It won't be face value. It'll be something less. But it gives them a way to, again, attract people. It gives the people who are subscribers an opportunity to gain a ticket for basically free, right? They've already paid their monthly subscription. So, think Netflix, right?
Yep.
$8 a month.
Totally.
You go to as many events as you want.
Yeah. No, I think
right?
that's great.
As long as there's tickets. And the beauty of that is you could be, come out of work, it's a little bit early, and you say, oh, hey, Rita, what are you doing tonight? And she says, I don't know. What do you want to do? You can say, well, let me check what's on. You look on Play and it geolocates you and says, here's all the events happening tonight, like where you are.
Sure.
And it gives you, a proximity, right? And then, hey, there's tickets for this one, this one, this one. You go, well, there's tickets for this and this and this. And Rita says, well, that wouldn't be great. So you go, great, let me claim a ticket. You go in and you claim a ticket for that event for you and a friend, and you go to the event, and it was free.
Sure. No,
you can do that as many times as you want.
No, I think that's great.
So that,
keep going.
It's really about, the whole events business, right? The first challenge is to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of events, big brand names and stuff, you probably know about them already, but there's a huge, massive number of events. It's like the tip of the iceberg. The rest of the iceberg is all these other events you don't even know are happening around you.
Totally.
I watch people, get the platform, they turn it on and they go, I had no idea all these events were going on around me, right?
Sure.
Which is great. That's what we want. So discovery is important. And then when you go to the event, right, we've taken people, hopefully, mobile-first people, and we said, okay, you've got your mobile phone in your hand. It's going to lead you to this event. You've got to the event. You've got out of your living room now. Step one, right?
Sure, yeah.
You go to the event. Now let's give you an experience at the event that's akin to what you've come to, expect from a social network platform and so forth, and give you that storyboarding, give you communication, giving you the ability to meet people, giving you the ability to have conversations, blah, blah, blah. Give the audience, the organizer a chance to send you offers during the thing, right? Hey, rush to the bar right now, buy two beers and get 2 free shots, whatever it is.
Sure.
Depending on legislation, you may or may not be able to do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and things like that, right? So now you're getting a unique experience. You're getting a special experience. You get treated like a VIP, even if you didn't buy the VIP ticket. And the organizer, there'll be a feature in the app in the very near future which will allow you to say, hey, I'm having a good time, or I'm not really having a good time. And you just click on a button, right? Kind of periscopy with the hearts thing.
Yeah.
And the events organizer will get a thermometer that says, my crowd's having a really good time, or, oh boy, my crowd's not really having a very good time. And they can dynamically change how they're handling the event to address that.
Interesting.
They don't have to wait till the crowd's already started walking out the door. They can do it in real time.
Interesting.
So the whole thing is about, discovery, and then when you get to the event, give you a better event experience, right?
Yep.
And then the last one is, let's take away that offensive ticket cost.
Okay, sure.
And let's make it possible for you to go to as many events as you feel like going to at a price tag that's affordable to you. If I make it $8 a month and you spend that for a year,
yeah,
right?
Totally. Yeah.
Now you've spent $100, and you've gone to as many events as you want. Well, if you went to one event, you spent $80 average. So chances are you're getting a pretty good deal.
No, I 100% agree with you, but sadly, John, we're coming to the end of the show, so let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself and Play-In online.
Sure. Well, I mean, certainly you can find information about me. My Twitter handle is at John Pomeroy, or you can do at Play-In Network, which is a little tricksy. Best is just to go to the Play-In website, playin.co. You'll find us there. And likewise, if you're very interested in investing and so forth, you can find us on Crunchbase, on AngelList, on F6S, and so forth.
Perfect, John. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time under your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thanks, man. Later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.